All right, let's get to it. So, my first question to you is what are your pros and cons? What do you feel are your pros and cons?
I, th- First I have to say, Beatrice, it's so hard to talk about me because I try to make all of my initiatives not about me. But I think that my strength, excuse me, when I'm not sneezing, my strength is in my ability to review policy, find the middle road, and address problems related to poverty, which is what I devoted my life to. The weakness, the assets and the liabilities. The liability might be my passion. And when I think about the word passion, it implies anger. And given that I am a woman, I could be defined as hysterical. Given that I'm a black woman, I could be defined as an angry black woman. But the problem with that is that I don't have a radar for knowing my audience when I'm focused on addressing a problem. Like when I see people sleeping in the street, I might be with an audience that doesn't care, and I keep going because it's such a travesty. We live in the United States, and no one should sleep on the street. No one.
Well,
So
our the
what
community, however,
I'm sorry. The thing that I love so much is typically what people struggle with about me because they don't know if I'm going off the Richter scale.
most of our community members unfortunately have a less than sunnier disposition when it comes to you. In fact, quite a
Mhm.
few community members have voiced that at times you can seem racist or, yes, hysterical, or in more cases, some people even called you a psychopath, which is not true. So the community pros and cons is they feel that you have no pros to bring to the table. Then you're all about cons. And that personally, that's a problem with me because everybody has a little bit of negative and positive in them. Like me, cross me
Mhm.
the wrong way, I'm gonna let you know.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, the city of Newburgh residents, most of them, they don't have a sunnier um, description or an opinion of you, and I don't know why. Because you're extremely passionate. You know exactly what's going on with the city of Newburgh government, and yet I guess people feel more better just laying on the couch and just letting things be the way they are.
Well, there's something that I don't. When I think of a psychopath, um, I've been a therapist for 25 years, so a psychopath operates without emotion. So that counts me out. And the less than sunny opinion, I am unafraid. That is a problem for a lot of people. I remember talking to a council member, and she said, "You know, you scare me because you're not afraid." And I lived in Newburgh all my life, and something could happen to you. And if something happened to you, that would hurt us. That might be the case, but you live for what you believe and you die for what you believe. I have never changed the way I feel about addressing poverty. So if that makes me a person that doesn't respond in a warm and fuzzy way, then that's what it is. I don't think anyone in the city of Newburgh knows me. They don't know me. They don't know that I have 5 children. They don't know that I'm a grandmother. They don't know that I've experienced love and losses and hurt and rejection. They don't know any of those things. When when I hear people talking about me, it's almost as if they've assumed that I'm a rock and I have no feeling. That in and of itself hurts because the people who need me the most are the people easiest for other people to manipulate so that they'll say negative things about me. But I rest on things like my children love me, my nieces and nephews love me, um, people who talk to me like me, and I don't. Outside of that, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I could just be who I am and be okay with me. And in terms of being a racist, I have nothing to take from anybody. If I were racist, that would imply that I have a certain amount of power and privilege that I could exercise over someone, and I don't. I'm a black woman, and people who call me a racist, first of all, probably have no right to even refer to anyone as racist because they're usually not black. I saw the post that Drew Cartagena put on Facebook, and I wondered, is this a man who honestly believes that I have some kind of power over him? And if I do, and I'm a black woman with power over this white man, that must be awfully frustrating for him. Um, I've never been a person he could just make demands on. So when he says that I'm a racist, I don't know what he means. I don't frankly care about what he means. And I I have my opinions about the city of Newburgh and the people who have been part of the destruction, and that's the way it is.
Okay, powerful. Number
Well,
two,
thank you.
what do you consider to be Mayor Harvey's pros and cons?
I think Torrance is um, captivating. I think people gravitate toward him because he's captivating. Um, and I think he's a likable person. That those would be his pros, and he's also obviously an educated man. Where we part company is around fear. He's afraid to stand up and say what he believes and what he thinks. And because he's afraid, I think people get hurt, and the city of Newburgh gets hurt. Um,
Well, the community views him as the go-to guy to move Newburgh forward. However, I myself, I have a problem with that because the Olympic project, one of the fiascos here in the city of Newburgh was the Olympic project, and instead of uniting the residents from all walks of life, it divided us even more. Like you say the word Olympic to somebody, they either go, "Oh yeah, well I believed in that project,"
mhm.
or they go, "Yeah, I knew about it, but it didn't seem right to me." Unfortunately, people are thinking more with their emotions instead of logical and pragmatic thinking.
Well, I think what you talk about is an example of why I say he's afraid. Because change always puts people on edge. Um, but you have to be able to explain the change. And I think that he was able to be pushed back so that he never offered an opinion. He tried to stay somewhere in the middle. And you can't stay in the middle when you're a mayor. You have to make a decision. But I think he's afraid to make decisions because He doesn't want to be beat up.
Mhm.
Unlike me, I'm quite a bit older than he is. Not afraid of being taken on, and I'm not afraid to take people on as long as we're talking about the issue. The negative comments made about me, they're all related to something personal, a personal attack. Um, but I think most of the people who make those comments couldn't go around with me in a logical way.
Okay.
And,
Um,
and Beatrice, let me just say this: the Olympic project wasn't a bad project. For me, it was the location because we do need low income housing. And I don't think it's fair that the public could stand up and beat up a council member and he not open his mouth because he's glad it's not him. What would have united us and united the city council is if they would have stood up and made comments about the way Councilwoman Mejia was being spoken to. I've been in that position. I have been in a place where Judy Kennedy allowed the public to come in and attack me. It's not a comfortable place at all. So it is not something that I would ever do.
Number three, in light of recent investigations concerning City Hall, the Board of Education, and NFA, what is your overall opinion of the City of Newburgh's integrity?
Well, I think given the investigations, that's a scathing indictment because those allegations didn't just happen. I think the district attorney was looking for a long time at the city of Newburgh. And as chair of the NAACP civic engagement, I noticed and heard quite a bit about problems with the school board, which they did not adequately address. You have to address an issue from the beginning and see it through to the end, so that once you close the door is forever closed. You don't have to worry about that. With the same thing with City Hall, you can't keep covering up because you don't want to look like you have egg on your face.
Okay. Number four, when it comes to ethics, would you consider the City of Newburgh to have less ethical behavior within the last 4 years or more ethical behavior within the last 4 years?
I think they're getting worse. I think the cover up is getting worse. I think the scandals are worse. I think the fact that the ethics board has maybe one person on it or two people is a challenge for all of us.
Next question. How did you feel when you found out Mayor Harvey refused to have a debate with you?
Well, um, one person told me that he was that he didn't see me as competition. I thought quite the contrary. I absolutely have my finger on the pulse of this city, and he does not. So how I felt is this is a travesty because the people need to know us. They shouldn't be able to walk around with their fantasy about who either one of us are. So
Fine.
I think that was a loss for a loss that he caused because I invited him to a debate a couple of times.
So finally, how do you feel about the secret recordings being released to the media concerning
I
the city
think
manager?
what I heard, because I heard the recordings, but I think what I heard, I think if Councilwoman Rayford had not recorded that conversation, she would have been complicit in the corruption. Because once you know about something, you have a fiduciary responsibility to report it. And I happened to know that she hadn't been um, included in the details of many of those conversations because I had talked to her about it several times over the past 2 years. And we're not close, we're not buddies, but I had some concerns and I called her. So recording a conversation with him, I think she was dead on. It was the right thing to do because he would have never admitted that he even had a conversation with her. And he would have left her dangling in the wind. So kudos to her. It takes a lot to blow the whistle, but when you blow the whistle, the public should come out and support you. And the comments that's being made by one of the other council members, I think is just despicable. I want the public to know that whatever happens in this election, this is not going to go away, and we're not going to stand by idly and watch Hillary Rayford get beat up because someone thinks she should have been in part of the cover up. Not fair.
Well, we all know that Miss Rayford is truly a God loving and God fearing woman, and she acted upon what anybody, what any right Christian would do. She saw wrongdoing, and she put it out there because it is the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do, and she would have been blamed for it because all of those council members knew that Michael Caravino hadn't been showing up to work. They hadn't discussed it with her because I had several conversations and she didn't know anything about it. But in the recording, Harvey is admitting that Judy started to track Caravino's time in February, which means she suspected that he wasn't coming to work. But I always thought he wasn't showing up because you could never find him. Even when I was on the council, you couldn't find him. So at the point that Mayor Kennedy started to record his time, that should have been a flag to all of them in August that signing his timesheets was a disastrous thing to do. But this is Torrance Harvey going off half cocked, trying to pretend that he's a friend of the city manager and signing the timesheets, knowing the man wasn't in the city of Newburgh. And let's be clear, let's not deflect. Hillary is not the villain here. And Patty Sophocles' comment in the newspaper was not only inappropriate, it was way off base because she sat there and listened and she carefully made no comment. So she had to know that it was corruption. You don't hear her commenting. So for somebody who prides themselves in being this highly ethical, morally responsible, trustworthy person, the last thing she should do is throw stones at Hillary because she sat and allowed it to happen. She sat there, Jonathan Jacobson sat there, all of the staff, all of the council members. Harvey took the lead. They left everything in his lap and they excluded Hillary. She's not a buddy of theirs. That's why Patty can get on the soapbox and talk about how awful she is. But that's a terrible thing to say because she did the right thing. And I have blown the whistle before. And I will blow it again anytime I feel like something is going on to disenfranchise people. It is not fair. We've gone through enough. It is totally not fair. But this is the side the side of me that the public doesn't like because a lot of people won't stand up and take on a fight.
And that, my dear, is what we call America. So I want to
Hallelujah.
thank I want to thank Miss Gay Lee for this wonderful Q&A. And we're going to take a small break, and I will be back to give you my 2 cents on the election system. Peace.